Hey, we're live.
Hey, we're live. Look who we have here. Do you guys know who this is? We're doing a Final Cut Pro Radio TV live event. We're going to be talking about the Final Cut Pro. Oh, I got to stop that again. I was getting the delayed YouTube audio
Oh,
coming in.
nice.
I always forget. I monitor it so I can monitor comments, but then I always get to turn the audio off. So we are going to be talking mainly today. It's not going to be that long, maybe about a half hour, about the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit that's coming up November the 16th through the 18th. And we are going to talk about Brad Olson's Off the Tracks movie, which is going to be on iTunes, right? Starting Friday.
Yeah, this Friday. It's already available for pre-order, but it'll be out on iTunes on Friday.
So Apple made that process very, very easy, right? You just press the button out of Final Cut and boom, it's there.
I wish that, they had. I went through the same way anybody else would. I paid an aggregator to get everything up, so there was no special treatment for Off the Tracks, if anybody was wondering. And that's also why it took a little longer. I got some Facebook comments of, why isn't this on iTunes? When is this going to be on iTunes? And I'm like, it's a process. Definitely getting up on VHX.TV and Amazon was a much more straightforward, easy process.
I'm
Mostly
Amazon was. Yeah.
Amazon's very simple. You go to like videodirect.amazon.com and you create an account with your email, and you can upload the video directly through the web browser. They'll take a ProRes master. You can upload your subtitles and your artwork, and they have pretty good documentation on most of that. And you put it up. Now, what I don't like about Amazon is that it's a 50-50 split, and they don't pay you until 90 days after it starts selling.
Wow. That's
and then after that, they pay you every month, is what I've been told. But I was like, hey, when am I going to get some of this Amazon money? And it hasn't come yet. So they make it really easy to get on there, but they don't have necessarily the best split. Apple's definitely got a better split. And what's nice is you pay the aggregator, but then after that, the aggregator, while they collect money, they don't actually take a percentage off of what you make. At least the aggregator I'm going through. And then the best platform for me has just been VHX.TV, because I have complete 100% control. I can swap out artwork at any time. I can add captions or change captions. I can even swap out the whole movie if I noticed a mistake or a glitch, which may have happened a couple times. And I can add bonus features, like if I want to continue adding. In fact, I actually just did that the other week. If you had the bonus feature edition of Off the Tracks on VHX.TV, you might have noticed that I added a 8-minute video on the community and ecosystem of Final Cut Pro 10, which was more in line with what you and I originally cut.
Right.
And before I kind of tried to mash all 6 segments together and reorganize them. And it's kind of fun. It's fun to see it that way, because it's kind of it wouldn't have worked as one cohesive piece, but as a separate little video, it's a nice thing. Have you seen that section or that video, by the way?
You mean the isolated version, the 7-minute version?
The one that it's like 8 minutes that I put up just the other week.
Was it on Frame.io or?
No, it's on VHX.TV. Like, I think you've got access on there for the special edition or whatever.
I think that I downloaded that or something. I think I did. I think you sent me the link, and I think I did, but I'll go back and check.
Yeah, it's a fun one. So anyway, we can go on and on and on about aggregators and whatnot. But the exciting thing is it's on iTunes. And while I didn't get any special treatment from Apple, at the same time, they didn't stop me from putting it up on there. So I take that as a win.
Yeah, but working with Apple is so easy. I mean, it's just, you just call up Peter or call up Fred. To say, hey, I need to get this on iTunes. Can you put it on for me? And they have a direct link. Just load it up here.
Yeah, I just send Phil Schiller a text, and he's like, absolutely, buddy. Anything you want.
So it turns out that you convinced your wife to have the baby early, and now you can come to the Creative Summit, because initially you were thinking it was going to coincide with the baby and you had to stay home.
No, what happened is they pushed the Creative Summit back. And I'm fairly sure they were giving me special treatment. They heard that I had a baby on the way in October, and they were like, "Oh, let's delay this Creative Summit. Let's delay the release of 10.5 because we really need Brad there." I'm sure that's what happened.
Well,
again, the special treatment I get.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're making it, because we met 2 years ago at the Creative Summit in person, right?
That's right, in 2016.
Yeah, we met, and that's when we started filming in that one back room there at the Juniper. And that was pretty exciting. I mean, starting the process, I remember that very specifically. So I'd be disappointed if you didn't make it this year. This is my 3rd year as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having a second child would have, definitely takes precedence, or it's the first, it's what I got to do. But,
sure.
It works out that there's a month now, not a couple weeks. And I think that's enough time to justify flying out there and saying hi to everybody and having a good time once again at the Creative Summit.
So in case anybody doesn't know, I guess I didn't introduce you. This is Brad Olson, the producer of Off the Tracks, the documentary about Final Cut Pro 10 that is now going to be on iTunes starting Friday. You can pre-order now, and it's on VHX TV and also offthetracksmovie.com. Now, I'm Richard Taylor. I didn't introduce myself either. So we will both be at the Creative Summit, but Brad, there's something going on at the Creative Summit that is pretty special this year, this time, coming from your aspect, right?
So I assume what you're talking about is the special announcement that we're here to talk about, which is anybody who's attending the Creative Summit will actually get a free copy of Off the Tracks. As part of that, we're happy to provide that and become a sponsor of the Creative Summit, which is really where, like you just said, the whole thing began at the Creative Summit in 2016.
Right.
And last year we got to show the rough cut of the movie at the Creative Summit.
Right.
And this year I was like, well, what else can we do? And the idea was, why don't we just provide a copy of the movie to everybody who's attending? And I think that's a nice special gift. It's obviously not the reason why people are going to go, but I think it's a nice perk.
It absolutely is.
It's something I'm happy to provide.
So you are giving away a copy to every attendee of Off the Tracks. That's fantastic. Now,
if they want it.
Well, that's true, but I don't think, people, you have NAB, you have IBC this year coming up, but this is Final Cut Pro specific. This is not generic. Final Cut Pro is included with hundreds of other, content creators and hundreds of other manufacturers and products and everything else. This is Final Cut Pro specific. This is the biggest Final Cut Pro event of the year, typically each year. And it's special for many reasons, but number one reason is the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they introduced Final Cut Pro 10.3 the day before the event. Last year, they actually gave us a preview of Final Cut Pro 10.4 at the event. We were the first people in the world, public, to see Final Cut Pro 10.4. Then, of course, we shared that information on social media, which went out instantly. So this year, 10.5?
I think so. I think we're going to see it. I don't know if it'll be shipping. I really, really hope that they also, last year we also got to see the iMac Pro, although they said,
that's true.
I tried to touch it and I got the whole, no, you can't touch it. It's just to look at.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. You're afraid I'm going to break it or something. So this year it'd be really cool if we got to see a preview of the modular Mac Pro.
That would be great.
Person.
That would be very great. That's exciting to see what they finally came up with.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got a lot of boxes to tick. I'm sure there'll be a lot of noise, like any Apple product. And it's funny, everyone always looks back with more rose color tinted glasses than at the time. You know, they always. I feel like ever since I followed Apple, there's always been some naysayers and negative people and people who said I'm leaving the platform for good. But of course, the Mac Pro, which actually,
I
you
see
know,
it. Yeah, there it is.
back there. You know, I like the machine. It's done really good, well for me, but it didn't work for everyone the way that it needed to, and it wasn't upgradable the way that Apple was hoping it would be. So they had to. That was an interesting thing for them to have to actually publicly acknowledge that they got something wrong, and now there's the pressure's on to show us something new. So I'm almost more interested in that than, because I
I
feel like
agree.
Final Cut 10 is come
Progressing
so
nicely.
far,
Yeah.
and it's really nice right now. And while I do want to see new features there, it's always fun to see something completely new and different.
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. 10.5 will be very exciting. If I'm going to guess they're going to preview it and they're going to say coming in early 2019 is what I'm going to presume, because we're only 6 weeks away from the end of the year. So that's, I think that's what they'll do. Let's say the first quarter or the first part of 2019 when it's going to be released. That way they can relax, just show us a preview. But I am very excited about whatever the Mac Pro is going to be. I don't think it's going to be one machine. I think it's going to be maybe a couple different levels that you can buy, into. But you're not paying for a screen, and probably not a keyboard and a mouse either, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, if they don't come in with a base model around $3,000, I think that would be a little disappointing.
Yeah, without a screen, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, maybe the machine that might be more right for me, since the current Mac Pro or the 2013 model has been really good for me, maybe a Mac Mini Pro is what I want, and maybe that comes in at an even lower price point. If they had one of these 6-core processors that they put in a MacBook Pro in there, and really let you add a bunch of RAM to it, and if you could use an eGPU, I'd be really happy with something like that. So there's a lot of cool things that Apple could do with their current technology, and we'll see what they do.
No, I agree with you. The Mac Mini Pro would be a very, very clever way to do it, for interim between the Mac Pro, if you don't need the full power of whatever the Mac Pro is going to be. But no matter what they do, unless they made the thing back to the regular size of the cheese grater, they're not going to please everybody. They never please everybody, no matter what they do. So we're still going to have people complaining about it. They'll probably start complaining about it before they even get their hands on it. Typically, that's what happens.
Yeah. So what are you thinking for 10.5, Richard? I know you like to speculate and talk about it. What boxes does Apple need to tick for you?
Can I do my Alfred E. Newman and say, sure. What, me? Well, I'm always interested in, I think the audio can use some work in Final Cut 10 still. So I'd like to see some continuing improvements on that. They gave us a color board last year. Now, did you use any 360 stuff this last year at all?
Did I do what now?
Any 360 stuff that they gave us last year?
I haven't touched it.
Well, I haven't either.
I mean, it's I'm very interested and I've thought a lot about it, but I haven't touched it, mostly because I've been so focused on getting my documentary done and out there, and I haven't invested in any new camera equipment or anything yet. So I don't know. I feel like 360 VR is one of those things that has been really hot, as far as we all got to do this, but everybody's still hesitant to really jump in and figure out what to use it with. So
but I thought you had a 360 version of Off the Tracks.
we could experiment with that. We could try to run multiple interviews at the same time in different areas, and then you just turn, and the audio would, depending on where your head's facing, the audio would change, so you could hear this person over that person.
Right,
It'd be
right.
kind of fun and really distracting.
Sure. I mean, you lose control of the director as to what's going to be on
Looking
screen.
up and
Yeah, so we always want performance increases. Rob Mills says faster waveform drawing in the chat on YouTube. And the other thing is that, they keep, I don't think that Hollywood is Apple's market really, but I think they have to pay attention to it. So if they're going to do anything towards the Hollywood crowd this time, probably some way to collaborate with editors remotely and stuff, or off a server, don't you think? Possibly.
Collaboration is the really big one, I think. I mean, obviously, we always are going to want faster performance.
Right.
We're always going to want our projects to load faster. We're going to want a lot of different, things. I think audio is one of those things that they did the first half of it, but I'm still waiting on the second half of it.
Me too. Exactly.
But collaboration is, up to this point, we've had to exchange XMLs,
Right.
use transfer libraries, which is okay. Or there's hacks available, or you use a program like Keyflow Pro, which is still using XML, but it's a little bit more convenient in terms of having a MAM to look at all your footage. So there's ways to collaborate. I would make the argument that, yeah, you can find ways to do it, but it's not the kind of thing that's built into the app and that is the easiest simple solution for everyone. And this is, my argument about collaboration for the last couple of years has been, if Apple does it, it's not going to be specifically the way Hollywood or Avid does it. They're going to find the Apple way that appeals to high school students and college students and businesses and everyone else. It will work for, I think it'll totally work for a Hollywood movie, but it will be with a broader market in mind of how people want to work. And so it's got to be more clever, it's got to be more flexible, and it's got to be an easier solution than we've seen. And everyone says, well, Avid bin locking is easy. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you've mastered those workflows, sure, it's a known quantity. It's something people understand, but it's not so easy that you could set up, a room of high school students with bin locking. They're not going to understand that.
No.
I mean, students right now, Sam was just on your podcast talking about, teaching the Chicago students, and even those students, we're struggling some basic media management principles that we take for granted.
Right.
So I think that happens a lot as a professional. Once you've mastered a complicated system and you know which buttons to push when you're blindfolded, you automatically assume that it's easy. But really what simple and easy means is you don't know anything and you can still do it.
Right. Well, media management, as you know, it takes discipline. And high school students are not known for discipline. I mean, they just want to start filming and to throw the stuff on the timeline and get going. But you have to pay attention. The more you pay attention, as you know, in pre-production and organization, the much easier it is going. It just telegraphs through the entire project.
This is the technology, though, and moving into the future that will help with. It's kind of like you remember how when we went from film to digital with cameras, like still pictures, to DSLRs.
Yep.
How photographers can make a very valid point that with digital, those photographers are less disciplined because they just snap. You can stick a card in there and you can snap thousands of photos and then pick, the gems out of that. Whereas before, when you only had a roll of 24 or 36 exposures, you had to make every exposure count, and you knew it was going to take time to load another one. You couldn't just spray shots like they do now.
Yep.
Well, in a similar way, and yet there's benefits to being able to spray shots because you can grab a moment that you would have never been able to get with film.
Exactly.
And I think media management will be similar once we get to the cloud, because when machine learning improves, it will be able to automatically recognize objects. We already have metadata. Like if you take a video with an iPhone, you have metadata as far as, where it was taken, when it was taken. We can start getting facial recognition, tagging things. So a lot of the stuff that we used to organize and put into bins and folders and label, even stuff we keyword now, I foresee that being automated. And then as far as where we're storing it and where we're backing it up, right now it's like, okay, I've got to put it on this drive. I've got to copy it onto that drive. I've got to make a backup and take it home. I've got to upload this stuff to the cloud. Well, in the future, if it's already tagged with all that stuff and it's going all to the cloud and it's being saved to hundreds of servers across the planet, then you're not going to lose things because your hard drive broke or something like we do today, which means that lack of discipline that they'll have, I don't know if they'll ever really gain a lot of discipline because so much of that will be automated.
Well, that's true. It's much easier than it used to be.
Well, and it will be much easier than it is.
Well, that's what we want Apple to do. We want them to, the dilemma that Apple has with Final Cut Pro is make it easy enough for a beginner high schooler to use it, and also professional enough that professionals can use it in film and in corporate video and whatever else they want to. Doing both of those things in the same app, that's what the challenge is.
Yeah, and when I actually think about that, I think about ProRes RAW and how their version 1.0 implementation of ProRes RAW lacks white balance and exposure controls that anybody who thinks of RAW, whether they're taking stills or shooting on a red, thinks of being able to manipulate those things in post. And what I've heard is that Apple felt like some of those tools might have been intimidating and they wanted to do it, but they wanted to find an easier way to do it. And I thought that was kind of just one of those interesting little dilemmas, because the fact is, the way that ProRes RAW actually works is with the color wheels and the curves,
right,
is it actually unpacks that raw data. So you're not like applying a look and then coloring that. You're actually working with the raw material, and that's what's being processed through. So it's literally like having all the Final Cut color tools in your camera, which is really powerful. But that workflow hasn't clicked. And as I've watched YouTube reviews about ProRes RAW, that's what I think a lot of people have missed. And it wasn't super well explained by Apple. And I think if they just given us a button in the inspector, like we have with the red plugin, modify red RAW settings, we'll modify ProRes RAW settings, click that and have the functionality there, then those people would have been happy that were like looking for it. But then the new people who didn't know anything about it would never have to touch that thing, but they could use the color tools that are easier to find, and you can get the best of both worlds. But I can understand that there'd probably be some internal back and forth and debates about the best way to do it. And hopefully what that means is version 2.0 implementation in Final Cut gives us those abilities. And really the success of ProRes RAW, I think, will also be determined by companies like Blackmagic supporting it and Adobe supporting it, who were initially cut out of the development of it. It's just Atomos and DJI that Apple chose to partner with. And but I think in order for it to really be supported, we need to be able to bring it into Resolve. And it'd be awesome if Blackmagic's cameras used it, because at this point, I don't know why I would want to. I wouldn't want to buy a new camera without the capability of ProRes RAW.
I agree. And so I'm hoping the Pocket Cinema camera has it, and I'll tell you why. It already does 12-bit RAW.
Yep.
And it already does ProRes.
Yep. And so ProRes HQ is the same bandwidth as ProRes RAW. So
there you go. Now you have to have the fast, these CF cards. Is that what they are? The fastest cards? Some kind of cards. You need the faster cards in order to do that 12-bit stuff, at least in the Blackmagic camera, cinema camera. I'll be looking at that, when that comes out, see if the real world reviews hold up to their pre-promo material, because that always looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's actually something I think about with Off the Tracks. Off the Tracks was primarily shot with the original Blackmagic cinema camera that was released years ago, the 2.5K, and I shot 1080p ProRes on it. And Bill Davis actually made the comment after I showed the first 15 minutes of it at NAB, and he was like, I had no idea that the cinema camera could look that fantastic. And I thought about that and I realized, well, if you're going on YouTube and so many people have access to that camera and they don't understand how to work with the footage, they don't know understand how to expose properly, and they don't understand how to color grade it,
Sure.
then yeah, you're going to see a lot of Blackmagic cinema camera footage and pocket camera footage that looks terrible. But the fact is it totally has the capability of looking amazing. Just like pretty much any camera in that price range now. And it really comes down to the user understanding it and understanding how to, manipulate it in post to get the most out of it. And I think the same will be true of the pocket camera, the new 4K pocket cinema camera. I'm sure we'll see stuff that just looks horrendously bad, because I think a lot of people, as I did when I was coloring, 15 years ago, when I would color something, I had worked with Photoshop a little bit and I kind of understood how to tint things, but I didn't really understand how to get the most out of curves. I didn't really understand how to white balance properly. First, I didn't have a workflow in place that, oh, you need to like white balance, you need to color match, and then you need to like fine tune your look.
Right.
And those are the skills that I think a lot of people who have access to this stuff aren't going to develop, because they're just going to grab some sort of look package and think they can just apply a LUT to it and that should fix everything. So I don't know. That's a really weird tangent, but that's why I think results will vary with any camera coming out in that price
absolutely,
range.
Absolutely. So
whereas in Ari Alexa, you're not going to shoot on that. Sorry, I was just going to say with Alexa, you're not going to shoot on that unless you have experts who really know what they're doing with it. It's probably not going to end up in the hands of people who aren't very experienced. Anyway, getting back on track, because we've gone off the tracks, Richard.
That's there you go. There you go. So we're getting back to the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. Besides the announcement that you are giving away a copy of Off the Tracks to all attendees, every attendee, that's fantastic. So we're also going to go to the Spaceship Campus this time, which is exciting to me. I don't know if anybody else. I mean, there's no other way that I'm going to get there. I'm not going to California, coming from the East Coast just to go there. So going there as part of this package is, the Creative Summit is exciting for me. So we're going to the Apple Park and we're going to the Apple Campus Town Hall. Now, I think that's back to the old place where we were before the last 2 years, but we're going to the Visitor Center and we're getting an exclusive guided tour of some sort from Apple, something specifically for us, for the attendees. I mean, we've gotten exclusivity before. We've gotten to see Final Cut Pro 10.4 last year, but the first people in the world publicly to see it. So this will be interesting to me. And then the guided tour, I presume we're going to see a presentation from the Final Cut Pro team back at the One Infinite Loop campus. I presume that. What do you think?
I hope they don't just pull the buses up to the visitor center and say, have fun. There's your exclusive tour is the AR iPad, table in the visitor center, which is cool. I actually went and did that. My wife and I were in Cupertino in May and did it. It's cool, but I hope, I don't know what kind of strings have to be pulled, but it would be really amazing to actually go somewhere that, that millions of people can't go. And the visitor center is a place that's totally open to the public.
Right. But most people,
it'd be really cool to be able to go somewhere that's of course we've gone to Infinite Loop in the past and that's kind of a secretive place, but this is new, and I want to walk into a glass wall and sue Apple. Actually, that's what I want to do. So just Apple Park. That's how I'm planning on making some money.
I don't think they're going to turn us loose in Apple Park. I don't think that's the plan.
Well, but no. I guess, still walk into a glass wall. That's what I want to do.
How far physically is the spaceship from One Infinite Loop? Driving with the bus. 10 minutes? 5 minutes?
Less. It's not very far away. It's just across. It's across the freeway and a little further east.
Okay, because normally they take 2 buses.
Actually, where we were last year, we were at that abandoned theater. Mall.
Yeah, exactly. It was vacant.
Yeah. So if you just go one street to the east and up the street, you're you're right at Apple Park. Like it's literally across the freeway from where that was, and that wasn't that far from Infinite Loop. So it's all pretty close.
No, that's good. So that way they can get us on the bus, off the bus, and on us on and off again for the second visit without too much of a problem. But I'm just, I'm like I said, I'm never going to see the spaceship campus. This is my only opportunity.
Well, when you fly in, make sure you get on the right side of the plane. I don't know which side that will be depending on where you fly in, but you can yeah, I just don't know if you'll be flying from the north or the south or the east or the west. But basically, when you're flying into are you going to San Jose or are you flying into San Francisco?
No, SFO. San Jose doesn't have any direct flights from BWI.
Yeah. I was just thinking when I went through San Jose, I was able to see the spaceship from the plane window, which was kind of cool because it actually, from street level, you can't see much. It's a huge building, but they've got like huge trees in front of it, and it's kind of down and in, and it's not like this giant obstructive building that you can see from everywhere, but when you see it from overhead, it's really impressive.
So the one suggestion, so we have this Creative Summit has sponsors, different levels, platinum sponsors, LumaForge, Lumberjack Systems, exhibitors so far, Digital Anarchy, Softron, and you're going to give away as a sponsor. Are you a sponsor? Is that what you are?
Yeah.
So you're a sponsor, giving away 100 or maybe up to 200 copies of Off the Track, which is very generous of you, which is excellent. But I'd like to see some sponsor come up to the table and give us some coffee in Danish in the lobby of the Juniper this year.
Huh.
They didn't do it. They didn't do it last year.
No, they didn't. It was
a little bit mixed up because we were at the theater on Friday and whatever. But I mean, it makes it nice if you have the Juniper lobby in the morning. People get to congregate there before the sessions start, and just coffee and bagels or coffee and Danish, whatever. I'm going to talk to Future Media Concepts, and if they want to, or if they want to get a sponsor, I'm going to try to see if we can do that. I know it's not that cheap, not as cheap as you think. I mean, I'll go at the Dunkin' Donuts and get some stuff. I don't know if there's one around it, but it makes it nicer. Instead of everybody scattering in the morning when they get up and fending for themselves, everybody congregates in the lobby and has conversations and stuff. So
I'm interested. This year I actually will be able to be a lot more relaxed than I was the last 2 years. Because if you think about it, 2016, I was constantly pulling people for interviews.
Right.
So it was like grabbing people. When can you be interviewed? Can you come in now? Can you come in an hour? And
Sure.
like I had my checklist of people to grab, and I had scheduled them out. That last year, I was still working on the mix and some graphics and stuff for the screening that was happening on Saturday. So,
Right.
I enjoyed Friday a little bit, but Saturday I was locked in. And then Sunday, we took off to go have Randy Ubilos sign some posters and have an interview Dave Surf. After I'd screened the movie, I went and shot another interview for it.
Okay.
But I think we all agree that the Dave Surf interview was worth adding to the film.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this year, all I have to do is, give away copies of the movie, and I can hang out and chat, and I don't really have, I don't really have anything. I'm not planning on doing an exhibitor table this year, so we do want to give away some posters though as part of the raffle. So
that's cool.
That I'm figuring out. But
so are you going to give away links, I presume, for download? Is that what you're going to do for the movie?
We're still chatting about the best way to give it out. I want to make sure that that the people have control over like I can add based off an email list, but I want to make sure that the individuals are like, yes, I want this, before I just collect a bunch of information. So it'll be up to the people going, but I think everyone there will want it, and we'll make it easy. You'll essentially get emailed the link or a code, and that'll be that.
Yeah, that's nice. Last year we got a copy of software that I'm still using today, Edit Ready.
Yep.
That was very, very nice. So getting a copy of the movie is also very nice. So Rob Mills in the chat says, question for Brad, what's coming up in Off the Tracks 2? I think it's the last thing you want to worry about at this point, right?
I've got a different documentary in mind rather than focusing specifically on Final Cut Pro 10. The idea is to take this theme of change is radical and apply it to other areas in the tech industry. And, because Final Cut 10 is a very interesting case study in how people react to change and what is the result of change. But there's definitely other industries where that same thing applies. So I'm in the middle of doing some research. We'll see if that blossoms into anything. As far as Final Cut, the life of Off the Tracks will continue as little YouTube videos that I'm planning on making. I'll release little snippets of the film on Facebook and YouTube over the next 6 months, but I'd like to get some fresh interviews and just continue it as a brand from that point, but probably not do something as ambitious as making a second documentary on, I don't know what to talk about next. I mean, it's not really a documentary about Final Cut Pro 10 software updates. So
right. We were talking before we went live about Apple bringing out Final Cut Pro 11 at some point and not making a jump from 10 to 11 that was as drastic as 7 to 10. Well, it wasn't a jump. It was a new app. It wasn't any jump at all. 7 ended and 10 began. But I think it'll be smoother this time, I'm hoping.
We'll see. I mean, I'm sure no matter what happens in the future, when you've got to start over and you've got to push something out new, there will always be people who are really upset about that. But
what,
there was
definitely about something Apple does. What do you mean?
Yeah,
never heard that before.
I read an article the other day where somebody was like talking about how stupid the new iPhone was going to be and how excited they were for it.
What is that quote? That great quote that was in one of the excerpts, I think, from Off the Tracks, or it might have been the main excerpt about different levels of success and what happens.
Yeah,
from Cioni.
Yeah, Michael Cioni. George shared that on Facebook, I think yesterday or today.
Yeah.
Basically, he says that if successful companies, he says if you're successful, you're going to have enemies. Like basically, it's if you're good at something, you have friends. If you're great at something, you have fans, and if you're exceptional, then you have enemies.
Enemies, right? Exactly.
So success leads to enemies, but I mean the iPhone thing was funny because the article I read was talking about how stupid it's going to be. Then it said we're so excited about the new iPhone in the same article. And I'm like, that just sums it up. But when you talk about another version of Final Cut or whatever it's going to be called, I think that there'll be a leap. I think that some people won't want to take that leap, but hopefully Apple learned from what happened in 2011, and they'll do everything they can to make sure that that it is a smooth transition, so that you don't just have a bunch of people who hold on to 7 and then jump to Premiere because everything they hear about the new one is terrible.
Well, look at NAB. They announced 2.5 million users or seats so far. So 3 million next NAB, 3.5 million.
Yeah, I think there's a huge market for a tool like Final Cut Pro 10 that has not been fully realized. I feel like that number could go up 10 times and still, because there's a need for video literacy that is just barely starting to be realized.
Right.
And iMovie isn't gonna cut it for a lot of people. So I think Final Cut Pro 10 is a logical leap. But the important thing about these numbers as they are, it's like, yes, there's a ton of people who've bought Final Cut Pro 10. I don't know how many of those people use it every day, and I definitely don't think all of those people use it in the way that we might, where they're really digging into the app and they're really using it as professionals, and they're really needing things like they're needing to use professional color tools, or they're needing to export AAFs. That's a measure of like how many people use this in a very like to its full capability and need more out of the app versus how many people are just making a weekly blog or daily blog of their family
Right.
or with toys or something. There's which is it speaks wonderfully to Final Cut Pro 10 hitting an amazing market that was being ignored. But at the same time, when you're having conversations in a more professional circle, they kind of choose to ignore it because they're like, nobody uses that app. And it's like, well, people use it. Yeah, but they're the weird ones.
Okay. Well, that's okay. I've been called weird a few times in my life. I take that as a badge of honor, to be honest with you.
I don't fully expect everybody to switch over and embrace something like Final Cut Pro 10, but what I'm hoping, my goal with this documentary, the whole reason why I made it was to at least inform people so that if those conversations came up, there was actual information and good opinions, that they could lean on and say, well, actually, I saw this documentary, or actually so and so says, this or that, or this is why you're wrong about Final Cut Pro 10.
Right.
Because that information hasn't been getting out there enough, I don't think.
Well, it's just when people say ridiculous things like it can't be used for a major Hollywood film. Well, of course it can. It already has been multiple times. So that's just complete and utter nonsense. When they say it can't be used professionally at certain levels, the nonsense, it's already been used at those levels. Just because Abbott has a stronghold doesn't mean that Final Cut can't do it, because we've already seen it can, and Premiere can as well. So I ignore people when they say ridiculous things like that, or they base their opinions of Final Cut from 2011 when it was released.
It's just, for me, when it affects the jobs you can get or what
people's
opinions of you,
true.
That's where
that's
it
true.
changes, and that's why I think it's important to get it out there. And it's just a fun story. I mean, it's kind of a comeback story, Final Cut Pro 10, because
sure.
In the last couple years, we've seen a huge shift with Apple recommitting to pros. We've seen pros start to say, well, maybe I should take a look. Maybe but then they try the magnetic timeline and they get really mad.
Well, if they go in and not expecting that behavior, perhaps, but it doesn't take that long. And once you get used to it, it's like, how do I edit without it?
Right. Which is a big reason why while I have Resolve and I use, some other tools from time to time, it's the big thing of like, this interrupts my flow. To not have the magnetic timeline is just a huge disruption. To like rewind the clock back before 2011 is just very difficult for me.
Absolutely. So you were at IBC last year? That's coming up this week in Europe?
Yeah, I was there last year. Patrick Southern and I hung out a lot, and we went around and filmed some case study videos for LumaForge, and it was a good time. I'm sad I'm not actually going to be able to go this year. Can't really afford to go. I've got other trips planned, and it just wasn't going to work out. But
so that's more like NAB, in the future, I think, right?
It's I never made it to the show floor at IBC.
Okay.
I hung out at FCPX World, and then we were out and about doing interviews and stuff and visiting people in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is even though it's kind of the European Sin City, I guess, in some ways, it's a totally different vibe from Vegas. It's cooler, and it's, as far as temperature, and it's an old European city, so it has a whole different feel. I really dig it. Felt a little more intimate and a little bit more personal than NAB in some ways, because it's just not as. But again, I didn't go to the show floor, but even my understanding is the show floor is a little smaller, and it just felt a little more laid back in some ways. But yeah, it's kind of it's a trade show, so it's like that.
We got a comment in the chat, Robert says Denver Riddle is talking about something big at IBC. Have you heard anything about that? You think it's, I mean, but I mean, what? That's interesting that he said it's a big announcement. I mean, he was, you know, I used one of his tools before Final Cut got the color wheels. So I wonder what the heck that is.
So he shared on Color Grading Central that he's working on a new color application.
Okay.
My understanding is it's going to work with Premiere and Final Cut. I don't think it's going to be a plugin. I haven't had time to. I've meant to, like, he has a beta program going on, and I meant to sign up for that
right,
and see what it's all about. But basically, he's working. In fact, I'll just say this. I did have a conversation with him months ago where he alluded to working on this tool, and he said he wants to find a way to rethink how color tools work. And basically the comparison was everything's sort of been stuck in 20 years ago where we have these physical devices that then in turn we watch our scopes and we look at the picture
right.
and we're like kind of hands off the picture, and he wanted to find ways where it felt like we're more manipulating the picture. I haven't seen what that means.
Right.
But I feel like I can at least say that because he's announced that he is doing something, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means, but I think that's really cool because Denver, obviously, with Color Finale, when Final Cut came out with its own color tools, that had to have taken a dent. You know, I don't know who before Color Finale was an absolute must and need for a lot of us,
right?
And once Apple built it in, it was like, well, you know, you could make some comparisons of these features or that features, or, you know, but it became a lot harder to justify spending $150 on Color Finale Pro after the release of 10.4. So I'm excited for him that he's, you know, rather than just kind of retire from that, he's like, no, we've got talent here. Let's get creative. And I'm hoping that we see something that is surprising and new and different. So
well, he said big announcement, so that's what I've read that as well. I don't know what that means. I mean, I'll certainly be interested. I mean, I don't expect any big Final Cut Pro specific announcements at IBC because they're going to happen at the Creative Summit, I'm sure. In other words, I would be shocked if they did an updated Final Cut Pro around IBC. That doesn't seem like that's. I don't think that's ever happened.
I'm sure that Apple people will be there.
Sure.
And I'm sure that they'll be, you know, maybe they'll be bringing people in and doing briefings or whatever, but I don't know. I have no idea what their plans are for IBC. I haven't even seen. Have we seen anything about an FCPX tour or World or anything happening?
They're doing some kind of I don't know if it's Soho Editors or somebody's doing some kind of a Final Cut Pro thing, but it's not, you know, obviously it's not as big as LumaForge did at NAB, which was, you know, the days and days of stuff. A lot of it Final Cut Pro centric. And of course, it's not, the thing about the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is it's all Final Cut Pro. You know, the whole thing, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's all about Final Cut Pro, of course, in motion as well.
And the other kind of thing that IBC doesn't have for the second time, they're not able to do Super Meet at IBC,
which is disappointing for a lot of people, I know.
Yeah, so it's, you know, like I said, I liked going over there, but for Final Cut Pro stuff, I don't know. Maybe, hopefully Soho's putting something together. I just haven't seen any announcements on FCP.go or anything about it.
Maybe there's, I thought somebody was doing something. It might have even been off-site. I don't know. But it's not, you know, Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is the big event. So if you're interested in Final Cut Pro Creative Summit, they've lowered the price this year. It's usually, I think last year was $10.95 for the 3 days. This year it's $8.95. If you're an alumni, if you've ever been to a Future Media Concepts event before, you can get in for $7.95. You have to email Daniel. The information is on the site, FCPX.com. That's all one word. They've also reduced the price of the Juniper Hotel per night. Is it $149 this year? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It was $199 last year, so they reduced it $50 per night. I mean, it's not cheap, but this is the only, you know, you're going to see the Final Cut
for a hotel like the Juniper, $150 a night's a really, really good deal.
Exactly. It's a very nice hotel. It has a 24-hour gym you can get into. Most everything's walking distance. I go across the street and first thing I get is bottled waters, a bunch of those, and bring them back to my room. So I have those for the weekend.
You got to pay that California tax for that.
It's amazing.
Waters.
Yeah, I thought DC was bad. The California tax, it's always like, is it 10%, 20%? I don't even know what it is nowadays.
I'm talking about there's a tax per bottle because they are trying to reduce plastic use. And of course, when you're traveling, that's really, really hard to do. But they're trying to reduce how much plastic is being consumed. So there's like a 5 cent or 10 cents, I don't know how much charge for however much plastic. So plastic bottles will cost you more.
Okay, just got a comment in the chat. FCPX tour, IBC. Every day there will be an Apple marketing presentation followed by several FCPX and motion demos at the Atomos booth in Hall 11.
Right. Okay, I did hear about that. I heard about Atomos putting on something. I just wasn't sure if there's something offsite. That's cool. And then hopefully we see some more stuff with ProRes RAW centered around that.
Yeah, ProRes RAW is going to be interesting. Of course, in order for it to be successful, it has to expand. Blackmagic has to support it. It has to expand into even to the Windows side support because...
In fact, sorry, I remember now. It's all coming back to me. Alex Goldner posted about the Final Cut stuff happening at IBC. Sorry, people, I kind of forgot. Thinking about other events that are coming up.
Exactly. So that information was from Ronnie.
Oh, good. Ronnie's watching us?
I guess he is. Hey, Ronnie, what's up?
He's a good guy.
Glad to meet you at NAB this year. It was really very good event. So, all right, I think we're going to wrap it up. FCPXCreativeSummit.com is the place to go to register. I'm going to be coming in Thursday around noon. When are you heading out there, Brad?
I'm going to come in Thursday evening. And I'm just doing a flight this year. Now
you are?
Yeah, you did because before I was trying to drive out camera stuff. You did, you took a shuttle from the airport to the hotel?
Yeah, SFO, yeah. Super shuttle.
I've got to look and see if I'm sure San Jose Airport's got something similar. I was thinking about renting a car, and I thought, well, what's the point of that? Because I'm going to drive the car to the hotel and leave it in the parking lot and drive it back.
Supershuttle.com. You tell them when you're arriving. When you get there, you give them a text that you're ready to be picked up. You go to the ground transportation, and it's much cheaper than the taxi.
Does Super Shuttles, do they do that in other cities or other places?
Yeah,
or is that,
I did it at LAX, Las Vegas, Hollywood as well when I was there for the debut of Off the Tracks at LACPUG. I took it from the airport.
Well, this is something I'm only going to allude to, but there may be a reason that I'm going to New York in a little less than a month, and I was trying to figure out the best way to do transportation. Maybe they have Super Shuttle out there. I don't know. I'll have to look.
Well, usually they're centered around airports. So
right. If flying into LaGuardia.
Okay. I don't know, but I never thought about New York. I mean, I just take the train up from here typically because it's only about 2 hours, something like that, 2 something hours. And I can, just do work on the train and this goes into Penn Station. That's what I typically do, unless it's someplace else in New York. So, but that's a good point. I use Super Shuttle to go from the airport.
I will check it out and see if I can get all my transportation needs taken care of. Thank you for that tip, Richard.
Absolutely. It's much cheaper. I mean, when I was at Hollywood to see Off the Tracks at the LACPUG, I had a 6 o'clock flight. I got picked up at 4 in the morning, and the guy was there at 4, and it was like $15 plus plus a tip.
And how far? I mean, that's a pretty big drive from.
It was 20-some minutes without traffic. 20-some minutes. So I guess it was what airport was it? LAX?
LAX, yeah.
LAX, yeah, to Hollywood, yeah. It's like $15. Now you do share it, so you can. It's not going to be sometimes direct. You have to make a stop or two, but the price is, I'm not in any hurry typically. I'm coming in Thursday, so takes me 40 minutes to get there. That's fine. 40, 45 minutes, something like that, from SFO. since
That's
they
a good tip. I'm going to check that out.
All right, I think we're good. So everything, once again, is fcpxcreativesummit.com. fcpxcreativesummit.com, all one word. They have all the information there. They are updating their schedule on who's going to be doing the sessions. I know Jeff Greenberg always says his job is to make it difficult to decide which of 3 sessions to go to because they're all simultaneous. They have 1, 2, 3 happening at the same time in different rooms all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And a lot of times I want to go to 2 of them. And of course you can't. You have to go to one or the other unless you go half and half. But
5 minute splits and then go.
Yeah, I always say I'm going to go to the motion track, and a lot of times I end up spending my time in the lobby. So
I plan on hanging out in the lobby a lot.
Yeah,
just because I want to kick back and relax.
Exactly. Well, that's the other thing. People ask me about sometimes to do presentations. Well, then it becomes work. So because I got to prepare. When I do a class, I got to prepare. I got to do slides. I got to get everything well rehearsed. That's just the way I am. So then it becomes work. So I don't typically like to do that unless I'm teaching specifically or something. So no, I'm not planning on doing that. I mean, I was on a panel last year, but that was easy. That was just impromptu talking about stuff. So hopefully we'll have all our friends here. I know LumaForge is going to be there.
Yep.
What do you think the odds are that Bill Davis will be there?
I don't know how we can do it without him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it says Phil Hodgett says it's the Final Cut Pro annual family reunion, and it really is. It really is. This is my 3rd year. It's the only thing that gets me out to the West Coast. Got to be Final Cut Pro centric. All right. Anything else?
Not now. No, you can. We can sign off. Go to offthetracksmovie.com. I'm gonna have to update it this week so that you can get a link to iTunes.
No, absolutely. Being on iTunes is very cool as well, and you're giving away all those copies. That's fantastic at the Creative Summit. I was pleasantly surprised when I learned that last week.
Yep, it'll be exciting.
Absolutely. So I'll be glad to see you again for the 3rd year. We've seen each other at 2 Creative Summits so far and 2 NABs. This will be our 3rd Creative Summit. So I've enjoyed working with you over the years.
Likewise, Richard. It's been great.
All right. We are going to sign off. Bradley Olson from Off the Tracks Movie. He's the producer. I helped him edit it. And we will see everybody at the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. If there's any breaking news about the Creative Summit, we'll do another one of these to bring everybody up to date. And any other breaking news, if there's anything coming out of IBC, I might hop back on here for a short one to let everybody know. I will be streaming live at the Creative Summit, behind the scenes type stuff. I'm not going to do the sessions. Although I did film Jeff's Tips and Tricks show last year, him and Abba's Tips and Tricks show. I got his permission to film the entire thing, so I do have that. So I might put a couple of those tips and tricks up from that session, and I'll probably film that again this year just for the heck of it. It's good information they have. All right, everybody. FCP Radio, Final Cut Pro Radio. We're going to have a new episode out this week. And as we've done all summer long, we've had episodes. We didn't take any vacation. We just kept plugging away. We had some good shows this summer. So Brad's been on it probably a record amount of times, more than anybody else. A lot.
Maybe.
Yeah, you've been on that a lot. All right, Brad.
Well, I appreciate it, Richard. And we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Final Cut Pro Radio, TV. We'll be doing these occasionally leading up to the Creative Summit, and we'll be streaming some live stuff from the Creative Summit, background stuff, probably starting Thursday, late afternoon, and through Saturday and Sunday. Of course, the exhibit is on Friday night. The exhibitors' ball, whatever you want to call it. What do they call that? The exhibitors something or other.
Yeah.
Everybody gets together and have a big party. They have food and everybody gets together and just hangs out. That's always fun. That's on Friday night after being with Apple all day Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday the sessions start. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I will talk to everybody later. Thanks, Brad.
Yep. Thank you.